Your existence today makes absolutely no sense. Go back in time and your DNA was carried by babies who cheated death over and over again. A simple fever, a predator's fangs, or one harsh winter could have erased your entire lineage. Yet someone, in the most insane way possible, kept that baby ancestor of yours alive. For 99% of human history, raising a child wasn't about choosing a name or buying toys. It was a battle for survival, one where the odds of failure were overwhelming. In his work, anthropologist James Suzman has shown that for most of human history, life was a fragile balance between energy consumed and energy expended. And no one was more fragile than a newborn. No formula, no antibiotics, no pediatricians. Just you, your community, and survival instincts honed over millions of years. So how did ancient humans, hunter-gatherers, Neanderthals, our earliest ancestors, actually keep their children alive? Let's start with a number. For decades, anthropologists believed that about 40% of prehistoric infants died in their first year of life. 40%. Nearly half. But new research from the Australian National University, ANU, led by Dr. Claire McFadden, has turned this assumption on its head. By analyzing UN data from 97 countries, McFadden found that the number of child burials in archaeological sites doesn't reflect high mortality rates. It reflects high birth rates. More children were being born than we ever thought, and that means prehistoric mothers were more capable of caring for their children than we ever imagined. But how? How could a hunter-gatherer mother, with no strollers, no bottle warmers, no diapers, keep her child alive in a world full of predators, disease, and starvation? The first answer is, she didn't do it alone. Meet the alloparents, non-parental caregivers. In every human hunting and gathering society about which we have information, mothers allow others to hold newborns. This might sound obvious to you today, but in the primate world, it's a revolution. Chimpanzees don't do this. Orangutans don't do this. Only humans, and our ancestors, evolved the ability to trust others with their children. Anthropologist Helen Alvarez from the University of Utah found that in hunter-gatherer groups, mothers were likely to have their own mothers and other female kin nearby when they gave birth. Older mothers would relocate to be near daughters of childbearing age. That's a support system, a social safety net built over tens of thousands of years. This care starts early. In traditional hunter-gatherer societies, allomothers, grandmothers, aunts, older sisters, other tribe members, begin caring for infants from the first days of life. They practice kiss feeding, chewing food and transferring it mouth to mouth, often honey or pre-masticated food. This doesn't just feed the child, it creates attachment. The child learns to trust multiple people, not just the biological mother. And that, according to psychologists Ted Ruffman and Joseph Perner, created a cascade effect. Theory of mind, the ability to understand others' thoughts and feelings, became contagious through multiple caregivers. Children with multiple caregivers had to learn to read the moods, intentions, and needs of many different people. The child who was best at reading others received the best care. That's the evolution of emotion. That's how an ape, your ancestor, became human. But food was another survival challenge. Breast milk was essential to the survival of babies and toddlers in prehistoric times. Scientists have found evidence from carbon and nitrogen isotopes in children's bones that early Homo ancestors breastfed until about 3 to 4 years of age. 3 to 4 years. That means a mother couldn't get pregnant again during that time, because breastfeeding suppresses ovulation. So extended breastfeeding was a trade-off. One better nourished child, but fewer children born. Then, an invention changed everything. Around 7,000 years ago in Central Europe, Stone Age farmers began making small clay pots with spouts, vessels small enough to fit in a child's hand. They were found in children's graves. And in 2019, chemist Julie Dunne from the University of Bristol and her team analyzed the food residues inside these vessels. Their findings, published in Nature, were astonishing. The vessels contained ruminant animal milk from cows, sheep, or goats. These were the first confirmed prehistoric baby bottles. They were used to wean children or to feed orphans whose mothers had died. For the first time in human history, a child could survive without breast milk. And that meant mothers could have children more frequently. Populations could grow, civilization could begin. But let's reconstruct a day in the life of a hunter-gatherer family 30,000 years ago. You wake when your body is ready. No alarm, no schedule. But there's a cry. Your child is hungry. You pull them to your chest, let them nurse while your eyes scan the cave or hut for danger. Around you are others. Your mother preparing food, or your sister watching another child, your husband sharpening tools. The child is passed from hand to hand, not because you don't love them, but because the whole group loves them, and because you need to go find food. In hunter-gatherer societies like the Bayaka of the Congo Basin, mothers balance childcare with subsistence tasks. They face a choice: take infants on foraging trips or leave them with caregivers in the settlement. Both options carry risk, but they have a network. Others willing to help. That's how ancient humans kept their children alive, not with technology, but with community. And they didn't just keep children alive. They loved them. Look at the Neanderthals. For decades, their image was that of brutes, brutal, primitive, living lives that were harsh, short, and dangerous. But research from the University of York, led by Dr. Penny Spikins, paints a completely different picture. Spikins and her team studied Neanderthal burials, especially those of children. They found that more than a third of Neanderthal graves contained children under the age of 4. And these graves weren't hasty pits. They show special care. Children were buried with objects, flint scrapers, animal bones laid out ceremonially around the body. They were placed in natural rock fissures, carefully chosen. Children may have been significant in Neanderthal society, Spikins said. There's evidence that Neanderthals cared for sick and injured children for months, even years. Some individuals were severely injured, like the Neanderthal man found in Shanidar Cave in Iraq, who was deaf, had a paralyzed arm, and was nearly blind, yet lived a long life because of family care. That couldn't have happened without someone, likely parents, relatives, caring for them. And Neanderthal children were taught. They learned to knap flint alongside adults. They made toy axes. They were taught not just how to use tools, but their place in society. The York researchers wrote, "There is a critical distinction to be made between a harsh childhood and a childhood lived in a harsh environment. The environment could be harsh, but parental love was not. The same is true for our Homo sapiens ancestors." In 2017, an international team of archaeologists discovered a burial in Italy's Arma Verana cave. Inside was a newborn girl named Neve, who lived about 10,000 years ago. The baby only lived 40 to 50 days, but her community buried her with over 70 perforated shell beads, 4 pendants, and an eagle-owl talon. This was an infant's grave. Yet, it's one of the richest burials found in Europe from that period. Researchers led by anthropologist Claudine Gravel-Miguel from Arizona State University analyzed the placement of the shell beads. They found that the beads were sewn onto a piece of cloth or hide, and the baby was wrapped in it, like a sling or carrier. This is the oldest evidence of baby sling use, 10,000 years ago. Here's the fascinating part. The shell beads had been used for a long time before the baby was born. They were worn by community members, likely the mother or relatives, for a considerable period before being sewn onto the baby's sling. That's an heirloom, a keepsake, an object passed down through generations, a symbol of love and connection. Even in death, the child was wrapped in the love of an entire community. So what do you think? Do you think your ancestors, hunter-gatherers, Neanderthals, the first humans, didn't love their children? Do you think they were brutish, unfeeling, only concerned with survival? Think again. Dr. Claire McFadden's research carries a profound message. She says that when we learn about the past, it's important to bring some humanity back to our ancestors. Artistic representations in popular culture tend to view our ancestors as archaic and incapable people, and we forget their emotional experience and responses, such as the desire to provide care and feelings of grief. Date back tens of thousands of years. Grief, love, sacrifice. These aren't modern inventions. They're part of who you are, passed down from prehistoric mothers, fathers, and caregivers who fought every odd to keep a child alive. They didn't always succeed. Prehistoric child mortality rates were still high. An estimated 27% of infants died in their first year, and about 47.5% didn't survive to puberty. That's the brutal truth of evolution. But here's another truth. The children who survived, your ancestors, survived because someone cared for them, because a mother breastfed them for 3 years, because a grandmother pre-chewed their food, because a sister carried them while their mother foraged, because a community wrapped them in love, even when the world outside was full of danger. And here's the miracle. That care, that love shaped your brain. It shaped your ability to trust, to connect, to love. It shaped your humanity. You're reading these words. You exist. You're a miracle. And that miracle began with a child, an ancestor, kept alive by the hands of those who loved them.